Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Who work at remote locations, forest rangers, or oil rig workers, what's the creepiest thing you've seen while at work? I worked at a public forest. One day, we had some reports of a dead animal on the side of the road of one of our trails. A few of us from the front desk hiked out to see what it was. It looked like a giant piece of liver, maybe? Just a pile of smooth red meat, no blood around. And it was wrapped up in a t shirt with some coins scattered around it. We called our rangers to go check it out, and one of them was pretty sure it was a placenta. The weird part is, you have to check in through a front desk. So someone either snuck a placenta or liver in, or gave live birth and removed an organ on our trails. We never got an answer on what the pile of meat was, how it got there, or why. I work on the North Sea oil rigs on an ad hoc basis off the coast of Scotland. Wouldn't say anything was particularly paranormal creepy, but it can be very unsettling in a weird place. Fog can come rolling in out of nowhere, and other rigs you can see off the sides can disappear in front of your eyes. Sometimes, you can't see the walkway 6 feet in front of you. If you're walking over grading, you can't see the sea below your feet, about 60 meters down from feck to sea. But you can hear it, albeit muffled. The fog can roll in over the course of a few minutes, too, so a perfectly clear day becomes pea soup. You can also feel the rig moving and swaying on high winds and rough seas, even though it's a fixed-leg platform. Very unnerving to feel your office swaying when it shouldn't be. My last trip was my first ever night shift, and I found it particularly unsettling as you've got the background noise of the plant, but I walked around the whole rig without seeing another living soul for the whole shift. Usually there are about 130 people on board, although smaller rigs have smaller head counts. Usually, once a trip, I'm hit by this awareness that you're just very isolated and in the middle of nowhere. Most rigs I've worked on are an hour's chopper ride from land, so if things go wrong, it can escalate very quickly. During college, that was located away from major cities, the woods were all around us. That being said, there was a highly rated trail, the Loyalsock Trail, which was about an hour drive from the university. I invited a friend to come with me, as he had never been on an extended backpacking trip. A 50-plus mile trail that we intended to backpack over the 4-day weekend. I'm an Eagle Scout who has spent countless hours in the woods and went on backpacking trips consistently throughout my college experience. As many have said before me, you get used to the minor spooky things happening: coyote howls, raccoons in the middle of the night, even the occasional unknown noise. The scariest thing to find in the woods, however, are people. We were about 20 miles into the trail, and being Pennsylvania, where the underbrush and tree line the trails pretty densely, I always walk about 100 meters off of the trail to reduce the chances of me disturbing people or people disturbing me, especially in the early morning when I choose to sleep in. Following that same strategy, my friend and I go out of our way to be in this amazing spot a good ways off of the trail, where it would even be difficult to see our flashlights from the trail. This spot was on a peninsula where a creek met a river, meaning there was only one way into our camp and only one way out. We start a fire, cook our food, and drink some, but not enough to get either of us drunk. We put the fire out about midnight and head into our individual tents. All is quiet. It is the fall semester, so leaves are on the ground. The moon is brightly shining through the bare trees, and the air is cool. The only noise is the occasional time when I would hear my friend turn over in his sleep. Then I hear the voices. The voices sounded very close for being on the trail 100 plus meters away. I checked my watch, 3 a.m. Who hikes at 3 a.m.? We're 20 miles in. I slowly get out of my sleeping bag, slowly unzip my tent, only to see my friend peeking out of his tent in the exact same fashion. He quickly moves his finger over his mouth in an exaggerated hush signal, then use the same hand to frantically motion towards the way of the trail. Then we see them, 4 adults, 3 men, and 1 woman, walking directly towards our camp. No lights illuminating their path. They're walking silently at this point. Only one of them has a backpack, an impossibility for the long hike. They were 1/3 of the way through. Being a long trip, you bring wood cutting supplies to chop branches into smaller branches to burn. For me, this was a survival knife. Grabbing a knife, believing it is my only way of defending myself, I'm more disheveled than I ever have been, especially knowing that a knife is barely defense at all. These people walk into our site, sit down by our extinguished fire pit, and just sit there for what felt like an eternity. My friend speaks up and asks what they're doing at our campsite. Without answering the question, they ask if we have any food. Having packed as lightly as possible for the long trip, we only had a few extra Mountain House MRE-style meals. I grab one out of the bag and toss it to one of the men. In rapid succession, I ask why they aren't using a light, if they need help finding the trail, and why they're hiking so late. They respond with the following: "We don't use lights. We know where the trail is. It is better to hike late at night." Unnerved at this point, my friend asks them to leave. They respond by asking if we want to light the fire and hang out for a bit. No, we do not. They grab their bag, get up, and leave without speaking another word. We watch them leave and take shifts, making sure that they don't come back. Needless to say, we both got very little sleep that night. When the sun rose the next morning, we finally got real sleep. By the afternoon, when we woke up, it all felt like a weird dream of sorts. The only evidence was a fuzzy cap that they must have dropped that I have to this day. I have never had something as weird or spooky as that happen in the woods, and hope to never have it happen again. In the 8 years since that trip, I haven't been back to the Loyal Sock Trail. Yeah, that's pretty odd. They probably were looking for trouble. If not, I don't know, but not good. I do a lot of stream work, so I spend time out in pretty rural areas walking streams and rivers. Once my coworker and I were working in a more urban environment and came across what we initially thought was a body, which of course triggered "oh shit" from us, but it ended up being a firefighter's dummy that had fallen down a hill. We felt pretty dumb. Other notable things include a small grave in the middle of nowhere for someone's dog, pretty sad, and a stuffed rabbit with shotgun shells placed where its eyes should be, a mannequin very purposefully placed in a chair in the middle of the woods, and lots of little random altars. I also did work in Myrtle Beach, what a hellhole, and accidentally walked into an inhabited homeless camp. I was peering into a stormwater grate when I looked up and saw a homeless person standing in his shelter, staring at us and saying nothing. I felt like I was trespassing, so we quietly left. I used to work in a ship, and were usually gone 3 to 10 months at a time. I worked night shift, so this meant I would sleep in the sleeping quarters during the daytime, with either just me or a handful of other crew members, where usually there'd be 20 to 30 of us in there. It wasn't so bad. Actually, I really liked it because it's a lot more peaceful sleeping during the day. You don't hear anybody else snoring or someone's footsteps because they have to piss or something like that. All you can hear is the light creak of the walls and the floors of the ship, and all you can feel is the sway of it on the ocean. A bit haunting and creepy if you really think about it, but I like it. All that ended when there was a short period of time was literally only 2 of us in there, or at least that's what I thought. I started hearing light taps across the room. At first, they were light taps. Then it would get a bit faster. Sometimes it'll get a bit louder. I'd ignore it if it wasn't so utterly annoying. I look at where the other guys are sleeping, and he seems to be fast asleep, accompanied by his light snoring. Second day, there it goes again. I tried to follow the sound, but for some reason it bounced around the room like an echo. Eventually, it comes to an abrupt halt, so I try to sleep it off. During work at night, I tried to ask my mate about it, but he said he was too tired to even notice. I guess I'm alone on this pursuit. Third day, I take my pursuit one step further by not sleeping right away. I'd be fully awake when it starts, so I'll have a better chance of discovering the source. There it goes again. This time I go from one empty rack to the next until finally it was loud as F tapping in progress. My heart was thumping like a jackhammer. I pulled the curtain to the side. There laid the biggest dude I've ever seen on the ship, holding his dick mid-stroke. You have no idea the speech I prepared for this guy in my head, for keeping me up for several days. But that exact moment, I had no idea what to say. Of course, I gave out a small yelp, which didn't help the situation. I never thought I'd be locking eyes with another dude while he's gripping his dong when I began this honorable pursuit. With the current situation, I mustered my best attempt at displaying my annoyance. It somehow came out as an apology, followed by, "I keep hearing tapping noises." He hadn't said anything yet, but at that exact moment, I realized that his elbow, that which belonged to his fapping arm, is resting right on the wall, probably banging on it over and over and over. I didn't wait for a reply. I nodded my head, kind of rolled my eye, and walked away. It will never be easy trying to avoid a big guy like him every day in the same sleeping quarters. Well, at least you found out what that noise was. Do you feel better now that you know? Used to be a supervisor for a janitorial company, and a couple times a week I had to go to a middle school and clean their hallway floors and gymnasium with a Zamboni type vehicle that mopped and scrubbed the floor. When I was there, I had the whole school to myself. Used to get finished quickly and go to the library and read while eating my dinner. Well, one morning after being there, I get a call from school security and they want me to come in. When I get there, I see a police car too. Uh-oh, I think. They ask me a few questions like, "Did you notice anything out of the ordinary or strange while you were here last night?" No, I hadn't. Usually have headphones in. Security then shows me camera footage of someone breaking into one of the classrooms while I was riding the Zamboni not far away. I was there for another 2 hours. Nothing was stolen, but the worst part was they didn't have any footage of the person leaving. They didn't go out the way they came in, and police had to sweep the entire school. Never did find out what happened with that one. On our drill ship that was built in China, we noticed on the drawings there was a room. We went to look at it and couldn't find an entrance, but the spacing was obvious. There was an extra room. It might not sound so creepy unless you've been in these shipyards where two things are known to happen: stowaways, although I doubt it in this case, but also hundreds of workers at any given time following orders blindly. So we confirmed that the room had all 6 sides, yet not a single weld on the outside. There is only one way this could have happened, and I'm sure you're starting to get it now. They must have welded from the inside for this room and then realized they had no way out upon completion of the gases didn't kill them first. It's extremely heavy around that room. People say they hear things. I have definitely. This isn't some old ship either. I rode this ship from China to Amsterdam after completion, and then the maiden voyage to America. I guess it happens quick. When I was 15 years old, I was doing my 4 a.m. newspaper delivery round on bicycle. I was driving into the garden of this one subscriber where I saw two guys with flashlights looking through the window of the house. I was a bit in shock and just said, "Good morning, guys." They were just as much in shock, and as awkward silence followed. I tried to break the silence by asking if I could pass them to deliver the newspaper through the door. One of the guys said the person living in that house did something to his family, and they took it as an opportunity to get away in their car that was still running. When they were gone, I rang the doorbell at the house to tell them what happened, and they should keep an eye out. We were wrapping up for the day in northern Canada. I'm fueling up the side boom. I'm all by myself at this point because I was tired of listening to the laborers whine of the cold, so I told them I would take care of the rest. Think bulldozer with no blade but a giant metal boom on the side that we use to raise and lower pipe. It's February, so pitch black. I keep hearing some weird sound. I can't quite hear it because the pump is too loud. I search around a couple times and see nothing. I get in the truck and take off. Drive past the front of the side boom to see a cougar sitting on top of a dirt pile 15 feet away. The damn thing was just watching me there and probably could have ended me without even me realizing it. I've never seen a cougar in the wild before, and it's hard to understand just how big they are and how powerful until you've seen one up close. That thing leapt off the 6 foot pile, and it probably didn't touch the ground for 15 to 20 feet. It's terrifying to think something so big and powerful could just be sitting there deciding if they want to make you dinner. I'm not sure if this counts, but I'm a teacher at an urban public school and was at work late grading and getting ready for the next day. Time had kind of flown by, and before I knew it, it was 7 p.m. I start packing up to leave in a building that is in theory locked and empty besides me when our Alice alarm goes off, indicating an armed intruder in the building. I am 1, alone, 2, young, 3, freaked AF because I'm absolutely not ready to fight a gunman over my lesson plans. I book it out of the school and dive into my car, hearing the alarm blaring the entire time. I peel out the parking lot and can see in my rear view the alarm lights still flashing and debate never going back. Cause F that, LMAO. Turns out they were doing routine maintenance and didn't send out an email to our teachers. Nothing like a massive adrenaline spike that could have been avoided with a simple email. My mom used to live in a small town in the Cascade Mountains and worked as a forest ranger. The creepiest thing that happened was when the oldest male ranger kept hitting on her and trying to get her to come home with him. Not very out of the ordinary, but many years later, after she'd left the town, she found out he had been convicted of manslaughter and had killed a young female ranger right before they hired her. She would have probably been his next target.